All right. First rule of the channel, we not talk about the channel. Second rule of the channel, this is not legal advice. So this is going to be how the sausage is made for week 9 of fantasy football, and this is going to be back after popular demand. In general, sometimes I hate fantasy football. This is going to be one of those weeks. My main money league, looking at like Drake London going down in the same week that AJ Brown goes down, and this is one of those things where I don't mind losing certain weeks. Other weeks where it's just like a comedy of how fantasy football goes. One of my co-managers was actually saying to me, it's worse than gambling. At least you can predict something in gambling. You can't predict anything in fantasy football in certain weeks. So right now you're looking at JSN being week 9 fantasy football MVP. And looking at some of the other stuff, I just got home, so some of the stuff like I'm going to be looking at for the first time as I sit down. Joe Burrow, he's going to be quarterback 1, 5 touchdown passes. Jalen Hurts continues, his torrid stretch at the end of the year. After kind of a slow start. Saquon, league winner. That's just the way it's going to go. A-Chain looks like he's going to get back on it, as a league winner. Also, Derrick Henry. I mean, again, this was not about the age with Derrick Henry. This was about the efficiency going down, and sometimes it doesn't matter. There's Alvin Kamara doing the same thing. Chase Brown predicted spike week. Goes full bell cow in this one. Dobbins falls in the end zone twice. Chase or Chuba falls in the end zone twice. On top of that, Ramondre 2 touchdowns. Not very efficient, but it doesn't really matter sometimes, as long as you're falling in the end zone. And didn't even see this with Rico. So this was with Zeke being a surprise bench. Didn't even travel with the team. And then Dalvin Cook coming up, and then you're looking at 12 for 75, 5 for 6 for 32, and a touchdown overall in that one. Wide receivers, there's JSN, 7 for 13, 180, and 2 touchdowns. The ongoing conversation about like Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. I don't even know right now, looking at the box scores, if Deontay Johnson was active. 5 for 6 for 127, 2 touchdowns. Just generally wanting pieces of that offense. I did see on Twitter that Garrett Wilson is actually having a better fantasy season with or after the Devontae Adams trade than he was before. 9 for 10 for 90 and 2 touchdowns. And one of those touchdowns was ridiculous. Was talking about this like Demarcus Robinson. He projected going into the season as draftable as a wide receiver 3 in a higher volume passing offense in deeper leagues. So he gets it done this week with a overtime catch. There's Quentin Johnson. We'll talk a little bit about that. Cortland Sutton in what was like not a particularly good game overall. And then tight ends, Mike Gesicki. So vacated targets, running back first, second, tight ends. More vacated targets in that game than were initially expected, with Jermaine Burton being a surprise scratch in this one. And there's Theo Johnson, a guy to be looking at down the line. Kickers like Kairos Santos, and then Tyler Bass. He hits a 61 yarder as time expires in that game. Defense, Rams. That's a little surprising to me. Who were they playing? Seattle. I wouldn't have been rolling that. Someone in my league picked them up at last second, rolled them, so like good on them. Chargers, Browns. That's a good roll. Colts. Like this is primarily off of a return touchdown. Them getting there, like they did lose that game. Jets in a game that I wouldn't have been rolling them out against the Texans. All right, let's get into the box scores. First and foremost, I don't have a lot to say about this Texans-Jets game. Never trust Thursday Night Football. And then the other thing to be talking about in this one, like there just wasn't a lot to throw the football to when it comes to the Texans. I did see some stuff about, is CJ Stroud over? There's when you get to the point where like your wide receiver 3 is now your wide receiver 1 because your wide receiver 1 and the wide receiver 2 are down, and then you're going to play a really good defense, or I shouldn't say really good, a good enough defense. You're going to have particular down weeks when you're coming out of it. I did see some other stuff about like Breece Hall, 15 for 74, and then the lack of receiving work on his 4 targets, 2 for 11. In general, like sometimes like if the touchdowns don't go for your guy, like that's just how it's going to go. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm concerned about him yet, but yeah, like definitely not going to get back what you paid for in this one. And then Devontae Adams in this one, if I can find them. Devontae Adams, he does 7 for 91 and a touchdown on 11 targets. Garrett Wilson, 9 for 92 touchdowns on 10 targets. I'm going to say that I think that's going to be like a little bit consistent as the season goes on. Tank Dell, I mean, generally what we were hoping we're going to happen, 9 for 6 for 126. The other one that I was a little surprised on is, I guess the targets were there with Dalton Schultz. It just didn't turn it in. 3 for 21 on top of that one. I did see Alan Lazard, I think, went on IR this week for the Jets. Cowboys and Falcons, and this one was not as close, I think, as the score would indicate. I mean, it was another one where the Cowboys came back into it late, and I can bring this one up. So as you could see, you're looking at one point like 21-10, Atlanta with 10:23 left to go in the third quarter. Ray-Ray McCloud 11-yard touchdown. And then the Cowboys were able to score with 128 and cut it to 27-21 with a touchdown pass. Dak got knocked out in this one, I think a hamstring. And I don't know how much that would really downgrade the weapons, considering how inconsistent the Cowboys have been in the first place. And then there's Rico Dowdle, 12 for 75. And let's see, Dalvin Cook, 2 for 8. Wasn't really used in the passing game. It does look like Rico Dowdle is going to be like, I wouldn't necessarily go as far as say like running back 1, but definitely like he should be rolled weekly. I just at this point like the inconsistency bothers me a little bit more, and then like being able to predict like, oh, they're going to continue to give him the football with the elevation of Dalvin Cook. Like if you did that, like good on you, that's smart. Not something I would necessarily do. 12 targets for CeeDee Lamb, only 8 for 47. 10 for 7 for 71 with Jake Ferguson. Over there with Atlanta, 19 for 86 for Bijan. He didn't score. I thought he scored 7 for 59 and 7 in the passing game. Darnell Mooney scores. Drake London does score on his 2 targets before he gets knocked out. I did see on Twitter that it doesn't appear that Drake London's injury is like severe. So like hopefully like in a week or two he'll be back. For those of you that like survived your week on this one, and then the conversation about like, should I roll out Kyle Pitts? Like, if you can't predict them, I don't know, outside of like, chasing, something out there. And then moving on to Dolphins and Bills. So this was the one that like went down the wire. Tyler Bass, a 61-yard field goal as time expired to win the game. If you're wondering, one of my co-managers was like, hey, good thing that Ray Davis was on the bench. So 2 for 70 and a touchdown, 63-yarder. And that's to go along with only like four carries. So again, like, I don't know like who would be rolling out Ray Davis outside of like desperation play, but like he gets it done. James Cook, 10 for 44. And you're looking at 5 for 6 for 25 in the passing game. Dalton Kincaid, 10 targets. I mean, at a certain point, and this is what I was telling my co-managers tonight, your Ladd McConkeys, some of these guys out there like tracking the opportunity, like those spikes are going to happen for the most part. Like, can we say with certainty that they're going to occur? No. But like when you're looking at like 10 for 4 for 32, I imagine like there's air yards to that, because I can't imagine that these are all like checked on monster routes that like are dropped or airmailed or something thrown into the turf. So like eventually like you're going to have this monster spike week for Dalton Kincaid. It's just like, can you survive to the point where it matters for you? 7 for 6 for 50 for Khalil Shakur, and then like Keon Coleman again. Like those targets, they're just going to be inconsistent when it comes down to that. For the Dolphins in this one, 2 touchdown passes for Tua. One goes to A-Chain through the air. The other one like Jalen Waddle. In my main money league, someone just dropped Jalen Waddle, and there was not a particular knife fight. I think he sat on the wire for a few days before someone like actually picked him up, and I don't blame them. This was even like Tua coming back, like it limited upside to be able to win you a league at this point. That doesn't surprise me. Like Tyreek Hill, 4 for 80 on 5 targets. There's A-Chain. I mean, he's a wide receiver. This is very special. Probably going to be first round draft pick. I probably imagine next year. Top 5 guy. I would even go as far. Primarily the receiving work that's going to make him special. I mean, in your scammer league, 8 for 58 without the touchdown is going to give you a 40-degree day. And then the receiving work, whatever he falls in the end zone, the receiving touchdowns, or the rushing work, whatever he falls in the end zone, like that's going to be like legendary outcome season if you can get like good enough quarterback play and he stays healthy. Again, we've seen the ability to have guys have high efficiency seasons on lower opportunities. So he can be in that like 50 to 60 snaps range as long as he's getting 8 targets and 12 carries in the red zone carries, and he's falling in the end zone. That's primarily all we would care about. One comes from a fantasy perspective. And then Josh Allen, 3 touchdown passes to go along with all of that. Raiders and Bengals. So they yanked Gardner Minshew and they put in Desmond Ridder in this game. And then I did see that the Raiders, I guess like the speculation is they fired their offensive coordinator after this game. Desmond Ridder does throw a touchdown pass to Brock Bowers. Zamir White, again, fantasy is like unpredictable. He got multiple red zone carries from what I saw on the ticker, and then he tugged on one of them. So if you're wondering on that one, like if you bought your Zamir White shares, and then they early in the season, like when he was not particularly good, could have got your 40-degree days because if they would have given him red zone usage, they didn't give him red zone usage. Now they're giving him red zone usage. No idea what they're going or what they're doing. Jacoby Myers like going to be like a solid wide receiver 2 rest of the season, just because there's nobody else to throw the football to, not named Brock Bowers. 11 for 8 for 105. On the other side, Joe Burrow, those 5 touchdown passes, vacated targets. Chase Brown goes full bell cow, and this is the other thing why I hate fantasy football sometimes. Did roll out Chase Brown shares, like been holding on to him to find out, like did draft him, and now like roll him out, and then get 27 for 120. He tugs in the passing game. He gets 5 for 5 for 37. He tugs in the passing game, go along with it. So the receiving work to go along with like the volume-based play of the bell count still doesn't get the week done for me. That's just how it goes with fantasy sometimes. Gesicki, so those vacated targets both from T. Higgins and Jermaine Burton, and it has to go to somebody. Now, where I was not particularly enthusiastic about rolling Mike Gesicki out, it would have been that I thought it was going to be a blowout, and it was a blowout. It's just that Mike Gesicki got it done on 5 for 6 for 102 touchdowns. Did see that like Drew Sample, the other tight end, like he tugged in the game, and then Tanner Hudson was also in the game. Eric all 2 for 2 for 24. Like good luck trying to guess that. And then Mike Gesicki basically playing like a wide receiver 3 in this one. Chase probably broke your heart. 11 for 7 for 43 to go along with it. And then Yosivas tugs because he's a red zone target, it looks like, for these guys. All right. And then Browns and Chargers, and this one was not as close as the score would indicate. So you get Cedric Tillman. Don't need to know how the sausage is made sometimes. He scores with 44 seconds left to go in the game. I do have some Cedric Tillman shares in this one. Did see at halftime he was like one target for 13. To go along with it. So a lot of this 6 for 75 on 11 targets, I think, was like all in the second half, and he tugged on one of them. Jerry Jeudy, 11 targets. And then probably to give us an indication of what the targets are going to be like for these guys, like you get the 7 targets for David Njoku. That's a solid tight end one that's like a 120 target season. And then Elijah Moore doing 9. That's a weekly dart throw. 11 targets for Jerry Jeudy. That's pretty close to like wide receiver 2 land on the lower efficiency. And like Cedric Tillman, again, red zone target, 11 targets. Like that should be probably like set and forget in your lineup. Again, talking about this with Jameis Winston, knowing that you're rolling out guys that probably you didn't pay for, and then like 1 touchdown to go with 3 interceptions, he's going to throw the other team. Like that's just something to know. Nick Chubb, not very efficient, 15 for 39. Did see a lot more Jerome Ford in the ticker, and I guess it was just because I saw him pop up on the 2 carries that he got. I was like, what's Jerome Ford doing in the game? On that one, J.K. Dobbins did not look particularly good early, and then I just saw the box score at the end. 14 for 85, falls in the end zone twice. I did see at one point, like I think Kamini Vadell was leading him in rushing, 3 for 6 earlier in the game before J.K. Dobbins got it done. Now the other thing, talking about like being able to predict certain things. So Josh Palmer scores on like a 28-yarder on 4 targets, and then Quentin Johnson 5 targets, 4 for 118 and a touchdown. Ladd McConkey still the wide receiver 1, 7 for 5 for 64 in this game. And again, like if your guy doesn't get it done, know what you're paying for, I guess. Like with McConkey, like there are other guys that they're probably going to try and get people to. Quentin Johnson, I wanted to look this up. A 66-yard touchdown pass. What he got it done on. Let's see. Patriots and Titans. So this was crazy. I guess like Drake May like runs around, throws a Hail Mary up. Well, basically like a 5-yard touchdown pass with time expiring, and then goes into overtime, and the Titans win in the game. Drake May, 1 touchdown pass. That's to go along with 8 for 95. Again, that's going to win your week right there. Like the 1 touchdown pass with 95 yards rushing, that's going to do it. Again, I talk about Ramondre, 10 for 16 and a touchdown, so it doesn't matter. He gets me the tug. And then 5 for 5 for 38, and he gets me another tug. So volume-based guys attached to a bad offense, like they can still get it done. And then Hunter Henry, 8 7 for 56, and then no Javon. There's Jalen Polk. Javon Baker, I'm just looking to see. I don't see him up there at all. Jaheim Bell pops up. He's super athletic tight end. I don't think he's going to be fantasy relevant this year, but did pop up in this one. Pop Douglas, 9 targets for 7 for 35. Again, not very efficient in this one. And then over there for the Titans, Mason Rudolph, playing for Will Levis again. Tony Pollard, I guess sort of a surprise play in this one after not practicing all week. 28 for 128, and you're also looking at 3 for 3 for 26. Nick Vannett scores. There's Nick Westbrook-Ikhine again, vacated targets. So if you're chasing something like that, 6 for 5 for 50, and then he scores, he gave you probably a sub 40 degree or 40 degree day, slightly higher if you're chasing that. Calvin Ridley, 8 targets, 5 for 73. That's coming off that huge 15 target game that he had. All right. Commanders and Giants. So this is another one when you look at the game cast. At halftime, it's 21-7 Washington. They score at the end of the half to jump ahead, and then it's 24-10 heading into the fourth quarter. Daniel Jones scores on a rushing touchdown. You also get Theo Johnson scoring late to make this a close game with 2:48. It's a 1-score game at that point. This is one of the ones I was watching because of my Jane Daniels shares, and I'm it looked like the Redskins were walking away with this game, and then suddenly it got close. Late, there's the 2 touchdown passes to Scary Terry. They were both red zone tugs, and you see 3 for 2 for 19. I don't even know how the sausage is made sometimes. I'm just looking at the fact that he gave me a 40 degree day, slightly higher, based off of 3 targets. The red zone targets again. That's what makes certain guys valuable in this one. Ben Sinnott signing, I did see that. Surprise scratch of B-Rob. Little interesting that Chris Rodriguez goes 11 for 52 and what's primarily a close game. Austin Eckler, a little bit full bell cow, 4 for 3 for 41 in the passing game, and then 11 for 42 and a touchdown in this one. There's Jeremy Nichols, 8 for 20. I'm a little curious if something happened with him, or maybe if it's just wasn't efficient. And then Daniel Jones, 2 touchdown passes and a rushing tug. So this one was not expected. There, quarterback 4 to go along with it. Then Tyrone Tracy, probably disappointed if you rolled him out. This is going to be the bigger thing is the lack of receiving work, the design receiving work. That this is the really disappointing thing. Why he looked like he was going to be a league winner. The 16 for 66. If he's not in a good offense, he's going to have limited red zone opportunities. It's the fact that they're not scheming up receiving work for him. Malik Neighbors another 11 targets. This was going to be the problem with Malik Neighbors. You're probably going to have high degree of volatility when it comes to the air yards versus the lower productivity plays, the check down monster stuff that he would get. There's Theo Johnson, 3 for 51, a touchdown. That's the 6 targets there. That's pretty interesting. If that's going to remain consistent, that's going to make him we can start talking about weekly role, right on the fringe of tight end one land. Let's see. Only 4 targets for Wandale. Darius Slayton, 3 targets in this game. All right. Saints and Panthers. Talking about the guy in the comments oh, should I roll out Chase Brown or Chuba? And pretty close to the same outcome of this. Was not expecting necessarily this to be anything more than a slog, and I think it generally was kind of that. Chuba falls in the end zone twice on his 15 carries. Jatavion Sanders, 5 for 4 for 87. I don't even see Tommy Tremble in this one, so I'm wondering if he was out. Jalen Coker, 3 for 2 for 36. Xavier Leggett, he gets 6 targets, 4 for 33, a touchdown in this one. That's going to be a little interesting. So some of that looks like design receiving work and red zone work. I'm trying to check the air yards on that later on to see what that's going to be like. If this is going to be worth chasing. So generally 6 targets to go along with 1 carry, that should be weekly roll. And if some of this is air yards, you're going to get the ability to have spike weeks off of the air yards, and then the rest of it is just going to be can you survive the weeks where he's going to give you a 40 degree day? You're getting somewhat close on usage to being able to say I'm going to have a 40 degree day just based off of opportunities in this one. And then did see that Chris Olave, if you were watching the video over in the corner, Chris Olave gets knocked out with a concussion in this one. Alvin Kamara, again, this is the other thing. It's not the age, it's not the usage, it's the decline in efficiency. Getting the spike in efficiency is something that is generally not seen in fantasy. So Alvin Kamara 29 for 155 in this game. Taysom Hill, he vultures a touchdown. He also does 5 for 4 for 41 in the passing game. The guy that I'm going to lose to in my main money league just picked him up at the last second and rolled him out there. I kind of feel dumb for not blocking that because he needed a tight end. But I don't know if it's one of those things with Taysom Hill. Like some weeks I'm like, good, roll that guy. I don't really care. And then other weeks I get a little scared because he can have these like massive spike weeks on that one. And there's Alvin Kamara 9 for 6 for 60 in this game. They lost late. Like Bryce Young, played somewhat okay. 16 for 26, 171, one touchdown and a pick. To go along with it, I'm just trying to look at the box scores. There's Mason Tipton, 3 targets, nothing. In this one, it's gonna be tough with the Saints. The other thing, there's something else I want to look at with the Saints. I was looking at the ticker. Jordan Mims, he popped up, 6'2", out of Fresno. A little interesting. Don't know who he is. So with all the running backs going down for the Saints, and then seeing some of the guys that they're rolling out there, and they have a higher opinion of some of these guys than I would generally think of. Like I would not necessarily like wondering who's going to get the opportunities with Jamal Williams being out and then Kendre Miller going on IR. That's why like a guy like Jordan Mims, it's like, okay, they're giving him 5 carries in this game, and then they gave him like 1 target. Is he a guy to be tracking as rosterable at this point? As a cuff. That's what I generally be looking at when I see something like that pop up. If Taysom Hill would have been like full load and none of the other running backs, then it's just, okay, that's not worth tracking anything on. If you're wondering why. I look at some of that stuff that's out there. Ravens and Broncos. So the comment about like, are the Broncos good or not? Well, like this week they're not. So it's going to be a little interesting to say like, how competitive they're going to be as their schedule gets tougher down the line. So I was thinking they may actually be good, and this may not just be an issue of playing the Baltimore Ravens, who are good. My thought on this would be that even if they were going to get blown out, that Bo Nix would be like serviceable, and he generally wasn't in this game. 19 for 33, interception, 6 for 36 on the ground. Javonte Williams, 12 for 42. Expecting that we might get a little bit of Jaleel McLaughlin in this game. And generally speaking, only 3 for 10. Like it would have been the red zone usage. Courtland Sutton does have a particularly good day. 10 for 7 for 122 overall. And that's about like Lucas Kroll did get a target. Adam Troutman did get a target. So those some of the guys to be tracking. Troy Franklin, 4 targets, 1 for 19. Probably not interested in that. And then over there for the Ravens, again, like Derrick Henry is going to be a league winner. 2 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, 3 touchdowns. You're also looking at Zay Flowers, 6 for 5 for 127 and a touchdown, like long of 53. That was a touchdown. I didn't see that on the ticker. Rashad Bateman, only 4 targets. And I am suspecting right now that Deontay Johnson was inactive in this game. Snap count. So whatever that means. So no usage right now. I'll have to be checking that later on, like 16 hours ago, 10 to 15 snaps. So something to be paying attention to in this one, whether or not like what the snap count will end up being on those guys. But again, like I imagine it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of figure out like how they're going to integrate him into the offense. This is their playing to win the Super Bowl. We're playing for fantasy. It may not be relevant one way or another. The other interesting thing, I did see this. It looked like the Eagles were going to blow out the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was 16-0 at halftime, and they were driving to score at halftime. So this could have been a little bit worse. And then it ends up being 23-28. Trevor Lawrence falls in the end zone with 4:04 left to go in the game. So, theoretically, if they would have stopped the Eagles, then they would have had a chance to win the game. So interception, they actually got the football back, it looks like, and threw a pick with threw a pick with a few a minute 38 left to go in the game. So that's how close this was. Eagles try to throw the football, get away. 2 picks by Lawrence. ETN is active. No one's particularly good in the rushing game. Evan Ingram with all those vacated targets, like 10 for 5 for 45. Brian Thomas was active, 4 for 2 for 22, like probably not healthy. Parker Washington, 6 for 3 for 41, if you're wondering on that one. Brenton Strange didn't get any usage. Over here for the Eagles, like I did see the highlight of Saquon Barkley, like Super Marioing over a defender, jumping over backwards. It's going to be right here in the corner if you're wondering. Jumping over a guy backwards, like ridiculous athleticism. Jalen Hurts, two touchdowns through the air, another one on the ground. Again, like the benefits of going elite quarterback early. Saquon, 27 for 159, a touchdown. And he's another one that had the efficiency going down year after year. To be able to chase that. Like this is all like, speculating, and why fantasy is sometimes not fun or not fair. Speculating that he's going to go to a good offense, and then all the injuries that he has had are not going to continue to keep the efficiency low. Good offensive line, good offense, and he's going to be able to open himself up. And that's generally how it worked. He does score in the receiving game to go along with it. AJ Brown got knocked out with a knee. I haven't heard anything on whether or not it's serious or not on this one. If you're wondering, further updates will surface after the game, so I don't know if this is serious or not. Grant Calcaterra, 5 for 5 for 30. So on this one, he was by target the number 2 after AJ Brown goes down in this game. And then Devontae Smith, he does score on this one. I think it was a 46-yarder. So his value is definitely going to accrete, or 25-yarder for Devontae Smith. His value is definitely going to increase the longer AJ Brown is out. He could end up being a top 10 wide receiver to finish the year, depending on what the knee injury is going to be like. Bears and the Cardinals, again, like can't trust the offense. Bears get beat down in this game, 29-9. And then one of there are a couple interesting things I saw. So Amari DiMercado, he scores on a 53-yarder right before the half. Trey Benson, he falls in the end zone on a 1-yarder early in the game. So if you're a James Conner owner and you see like both the other 2 running backs score and your guy doesn't, Trey McBride, he scores on a 2-yard rushing touchdown that opened things up in this game also. James Conner, 18 for 107 to go along for 3 for 3 for 12. And then 3 other guys score rushing touchdowns, and it's not your guy. That's how fantasy functions sometimes, huh? And then there's Trey Benson, 8 for 37. I'm going to guess like probably a lot of this was late. And then Trey McBride, 4 for 3 for 35. Cardinals are 5 and 4 now. And then Marvin Harrison, if you roll it, five targets, not bad, not good. For 2 for 34. Again, like if you can't trust your guys, just downgrade them and figure out how you're going to survive the downgrade. And then Bears. If you're wondering about the Bears box score, you're looking at 16 for 51 for DeAndre Swift. And then Rome, I mean, this was a Rome 7 for 5 for 107 or 104. Some of the things I talk about, like chasing those air yards, realizing that like that guy will spike based off the stats. Like, so Rome's on the field enough. They're using him enough vertically in that role that he's going to have those particular weeks. Now, he didn't score a touchdown, but imagine if you're rolling him out in that like flex wide receiver 3 range, you'll take your 5 for 104 weeks. There are other guys that I probably would be chasing that I think have higher upsides. 10 targets for Keenan Allen, 9 for DJ Moore, not particularly. 4 for 36 and 4 for 33 to go along with it in this one. And then Cole Kmet, like nothing. So I'm wondering if that injury. Just curious. Nope, just not used. There you go. And then talking about that, like downgrading guys, like at that point, like I probably would not be chasing that, like 2 weeks over, like probably should be going a different direction, like Theo Johnson, interested in that. Lions and Packers, not as close as the score says. The Packers scored late, so this was 17-3 at halftime, and then 24-6 at the end of the third in this one. So the Lions are really able to control this. David Montgomery, 17 for 73. Jahmyr Gibbs, 11 for 65 and a touchdown. The Sun God, 7 for 7 for 56 and a touchdown. And then everybody else, like, disappointing you in the passing game, not known name. David Montgomery, 3 for 3 for 23. And then, Gibbs only had like 2 for 1 for 11. When it comes to the Packers in this one, interception by Jordan Love, no touchdowns. Josh Jacobs, 13 for 95. Emmanuel Wilson falls in the end zone late. Again, I imagine this is garbage time. When he was in, Jaden Reed, 6 for 5 for 113. Did not see that one. And then Tucker Kraft. This was one of the things like Chris Brooks. Chris Brooks was in the game earlier. So he's the third string running back. That gets a little interesting because that's not going to be going to your desperation play of Emmanuel Wilson, and that's also not going to be going to like your Josh Jacobs, which is going to cut into whatever theoretical like upside that you're going to get out of him if some other random running back's getting on the field for receiving work. Let's see. Rams and Seahawks. So this is another one that gets crazy. So like this is a touchdown at the end of the game to Demarcus Robinson that I guess is like crazy. This is probably like, yep, that's the first time I've seen that play, like one-handed catch to end the game in overtime. So in this one, before we get to the Colts and Vikings, you're looking at 2 touchdown passes for Matt Stafford, Kyron Williams, full bell cow. Blake Corum goes like 1 for -1 to go along with the 22 for 69. Cooper Kupp, 14 targets, 11 for 104. Puka was active, 4 for 111. I'm wondering if he was just a decoy in this one. And nothing. Just gets ejected after he threw a punch. That's interesting. You're also there's Demarcus Robinson, 9 for 6 for 94, 2 touchdowns. Like he's in that wide receiver 3 range weekly. That's what we generally thought going into the season on this one. I was a little interested if they were going to run like more 2 tight end sets. If Puka was out and Jordan Whittington was out, because we have seen the uptick on Hunter Long and Davis Allen in this one with Colby Parkinson. And then when it comes to Seattle, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions for Geno Smith. Kenneth Walker, 25 for 83. He also did 3 for 3 for 24 in this one. AJ Barner does get a slight uptick, 7 targets, 4 for 27, not very efficient. Don't even really know who Cody White is. 6'3", 215. He does 3 for 2 for 44. So Tyler Lockett, 4 for 3 for 63 and a touchdown. And then there's JSN looking this one. This is all like, I think mostly second half from what I was seeing. Like this was not something that I was expecting. 13 for 7, 180 and 2 touchdowns. So this will be something that I will end up kind of diving into. At this point, like probably would be setting him in the lineup and seeing what's going to happen even when DK comes back based off that spike. Probably you're going to be rolling him out in that flex wide receiver 3 range. More than likely, maybe desperation wide receiver 2 range. On that one, there's Jake Bogo. He does get a target. And then finally finishes off the Colts and Vikings. This is another one that like fantasy really, is a cruel mistress. So the only scoring in the first half is a fumble return touchdown by the Colts. So that's why the Colts end up being like, defense 3 on the week, 2 interceptions, 21 points allowed, 4 fumbles, 1 forced fumble recovery touchdown. And then you get a top 5 scoring defense when it comes to the Colts. Besides that, like chasing what projected to be a good matchup against the Vikings. Again, the Vikings defense can, they're feast or famine. Generally, most of the receivers for the Colts like did not pay off. 9 for 6 for 60, Josh Downs. Alec Pierce, 3 for 3 for 41. Talking to one of my co-managers about whether or not we're going to roll Michael Pittman out. Good thing we didn't. 4 for 1 for 14 in this one. And then Adonai Mitchell does get home on 1 target, 1 for 22. So like again, like when he's on the field, they are trying to get some of the shots to him. Over there with Minnesota, 3 touchdowns for Sam Darnold, 2 interceptions, and then Aaron Jones, 21 for 64. The other thing is 6 for 46 for Cam Akers and no Ty Chandler. I'm a little curious on that one, because if we're going to be cuffing in that case, just 2 snaps. So yeah, you're getting close to like cuffing with your Cam Akers shares in this offense. Justin Jefferson, 9 for 7 for 137 in this one. And then your tugs go to Josh Oliver. Like he has like a fantasy relevant week, 5 for 5 for 58 and a touchdown. Jordan Addison tugs, Jalen Nailor tugs, and then TJ Hawkinson, 4 for 3 for 27 in his first game back. I'm kind of interested if they'll tell me 3 grabs, and I want to know the amount of snaps that he did. So snap count, it doesn't say yet. But generally, like that's going to go up, and that usage, as you can see, like the 2 touchdown touchdown pass to Josh Oliver, and then Munt, those are going to probably get all absorbed almost entirely to T.J. Hawkinson, and then as the third receiver or even the second receiver in this offense, like that's going to be interesting if you have been stashing or you have the ability to go after him if he's on your wire. So I believe that's it. And then tomorrow you're going to be looking at the Buccaneers and the Chiefs. Roll in that game to finish the week off, and I'll get the Chasing the Dragon done after breaking down the stats, and the game's over on Monday night.